Till yesterday, we were talking about the yoga of works. And not only yoga of works, there is an adjective there, divine works. For divine works, we have 4 qualifications. What are those 4 qualifications? The first is nishkama karma. The work must be done without any desire. Next is, you should have an equanimity. That means you are not interested in the result. You are not affected by the result. Whatever may be the result, your quality of action will not change. And third is, you should be an expert in that particular field of activity. And with all that, the 4th condition is, the ego must not be there. And that is the most difficult aspect, because we are so much habituated to it. These 4 come in a different way in this yoga. See how it comes. First is the object of knowledge. What is the object of knowledge? With the knowledge you already have, you have to go to a newer vistas of knowledge or higher knowledge. Can you understand the difference between these two? Newer vistas of knowledge is a lateral expansion. Higher vistas means ascending levels of consciousness. So the object of yoga of knowledge is 2. One is expansion of your knowledge, and the other is ascension of your knowledge. That is what he meant by the suprasensuous and supramental means and faculties. Next. Now, to understand the real knowledge, you should attain a state of nirvana. And when we say a state of nirvana, don't think we are using a Buddhist word. We are trying to use a level of consciousness where for you the world does not exist. What is known as the nihil, a nothingness. It is not nothing, it is a nothingness. And we use it as samadhi. Next. Action is permissible only in the first stages of the search in order to purify the seeker. And now, the difference between the karma yoga and jnana yoga is, in karma yoga, you do works with a particular state of mind. But in jnana yoga, you are not supposed to work at all. You are not permitted to work. You are just a silent watcher of your own thoughts, where after some time even the thoughts also go. This is the object and aim to which you should go. Clear? No difficulty? Next. The pure jnana yoga comes by the intellect, although it ends in the transcendence of the intellect and its workings. So with intellect we sit and say, yes, I am looking at the thoughts, I am looking at the thoughts, this thought is egoistic, this is, I am not supposed to think, this is not in tune with what I have read and the theory, and you go on thinking, you are utilizing the thoughts. But actually what should happen is, you should transcend the thoughts. And when you transcend the thought, because you don't have the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the Vijnanamaya Purusha, you go into nothingness. But in that nothingness, slowly the Vijnanamaya Purusha forms its nucleus, even though you are not aware of it. Next. Next. Thought is not perfect in our bodies. We are not able to think correctly. Right knowledge is not yet for us. Truth consciousness is not yet for us. Therefore, any thought that comes to you, even though you may feel that it is something very great and magnificent, be careful that it's still of a lower nature. You may receive many orders or divinations. The world is full of so many proclaimed prophets because they don't understand the true nature of thought. Next. Next. Yeah, back. Now, these things which we are seeing, this is very, very important. When I say these things, I mean these things. This one, or a part of the saliva coming out of my mouth. Anything is a language, a notation, a hieroglyph, and a system of symbols, not themselves the deepest, truest sense of the things they intimate, but they intimate something truth, because everything comes from the truth conscious. This is the basis of the yoga of knowledge. Whatever you see must have a basis in the truth conscious, even though you are not aware of it, because it is a language, a notation, a hieroglyphic, a system of symbols, not themselves the deepest, truest sense of the things they intimate. This background, a table. My Guruji used to tell about the shoes. He says, the word has 4 levels. Para Pashyanti, Madhyama Vaikhari. You know about these things? He used to say that the shoe I am wearing is my shoe. That is Vaikhari shoe. The shoes I see there are Madhyama. That means I can remove this shoe and wear that shoe. Is it not? That is Madhyama shoe. Pashyanti shoe, I can imagine in the Bata showroom the shoe was like that. In the Greek culture they used to wear shoes like that. In future maybe we may have something like that shoe which works like a helicopter, so that the transportation may become easy. It may happen, is it not? The future one, the Pashyanti. And then what is the principle? The para level is protection of the feet. The 4 levels. So if a shoe can have a 4 levels, your body also must be having 4 levels, and why can't you understand and try it? That is what this statement is in Jnana Yoga. You try to understand the 4 levels. Next. This, wherever you find this colored slide, concentrate on it. The liberated knower. A liberated knower is one who is in the samadhi state. He is liberated from the 3 lower principles. Acts in the world not less than the bound soul. Now, this is where the real problem comes. Many people give marks by the actions they see in the sadhu. Do you know he has not taken food since 12 years? And I think stone also does not take any food. So our criterion of testing a man is something external. But how a doctor or a scientist also eats food, may go to a movie, but just because he is going to a movie or going to a picture or going to a party or eating something else which you don't eat, does not make you a doctor if you follow those external actions. Am I clear? You are not supposed to follow the external actions. You follow the internal knowledge of a doctor or a scientist. And a doctor is a doctor even when he is eating food, even when he is sleeping, even when he is a doctor. Similarly, a yogi is a yogi whether he is sarvakrut, doing all actions, or not doing all actions. It is his yoga of knowledge. The yoga means higher level of evolution he has attained through knowledge. Next. The status of knowledge. Next. The status of knowledge is a two-pronged. One is the outer being knowledge, the knowledge we gather from the 5 senses, and then when it tries to turn the eye inwards. So all yoga is not looking outward. All yoga is the eye going inward. So you understand now this point? Our status is inward looking, not outward looking, even though we may be living in the outward world as others are. Next. the modes of being except in the light of the self. Now we have read about the modes of the nature, sattva, raja and tama. I think you all understood. You should respond, if not I could jump. If you understand it, I will jump. Similarly, you have a modes of the being, what is known as the Kshara Purusha, the Akshara Purusha and the Purushottama. I will come to it later, but you remember this. The Kshara Purusha is tamasic in nature. The Akshara Purusha is rajasic in nature. And the Purushottama is sattvic in nature. You just put it like that. Later when you read these lines at peace, not in a hurry, you will understand these realizations between the modes of nature, sattva, raja and tamas, and the modes of being, kshara, akshara and purushottama. Next. Next. Now this is a very important part. I told you about the purification. Before you can enter into the purification of understanding, and when I say the word understanding, it almost means that you are almost about to merge in the supramental consciousness. That is the word understanding means, buddhi. And buddhi again is of two types. Show the slides. Now, your intelligence, before it can receive something, before it can understand something, first there must be one of preparation. If you want to understand chemistry, you should know the chemical language. If you want to understand physics, you should know the language of physicists. Similarly, if you want to understand the Vijnanamaya Kosha, Purusha being formed, the descent of the supermind, you should have the preparation of this language, of the three yogas. You should know what is Raja Yoga in its fullest details. You should know Hatha Yoga in its fullest details. Just as you told you, fasting can help you to expand your Kundalini only if you can concentrate on the Mooladhara in fasting, because when you fast you are hungry, and hunger is a quality of Annamaya Kosha. And if you fast and create hunger and you don't fulfill that urge goes up. That is the one of the real meanings of sadhana. That is what I mean by preparation. You should read and understand all these things. And all these things which I am telling to you are there in this book. Probably the order of the presentation is very changing, but not even the word syntax also. I use the same words as Sri Aurobindo is using. And now, when you are prepared and those same words are used, you are illumined. We are prepared to understand this by understanding the language of the Vijnanamaya Kosha preparation. Am I clear? And now we are reading it. What will happen? The illumination comes. In a classroom, with a prepared mind, we sit quietly. When the teacher speaks, using the words of the preparation, the knowledge is illumined in your brains. Is it not? So this book is the teacher. That is why we always say that book is the teacher, Sadgrandha is the Guru, the Veda is the Guru, the Gita is the Guru, the Bible is the Guru, the Quran is the Guru. If you are properly prepared, it will illumine you. Next. An unpurified heart, an unpurified sense, an unpurified life confuse the understanding. That is where the purification is a must. You just can't say, I go directly to the point. You have to purify your heart, your senses, your life. If not, your understanding will be confused. Next. By the term buddhi, Sri Aurobindo translates it as an understanding, but he says that it is not a true translation. Because he couldn't get a better word, he is using instead of buddhi, understanding. So there are two types of buddhis. One is the higher buddhi, which has all the knowledge, also a knowledge which includes the future. The higher buddhi, that is where the gurus can tell you that the future is imminent. Be prepared for it. And if our higher buddhi is prepared, the future descends in you. And of course, the lower buddhi, the rational, logical mind. Next. Now, our buddhi, now you try to understand technically.
The higher buddhi goes up to the overmind.
Overmind. Of overmind also, and it can be illumined by the supermind. Therefore, it can have the future knowledge also. So now what happens here? Our understanding has three problems. First is the desires. You understand properly that you should not copy in the examinations. Everybody knows it. But your desire to get more marks, you understand, the understanding has gone to dogs. Next problem, illusion of the senses. This is what in Gita he says about the rajasic aspects. In the beginning they are like amruta, but in parinama they are poisons. That is a problem. Like smoking, like tea, or etc. etc. The illusion of the senses that you are drinking tea because you want to feel fresh. You can feel fresh by going into air also, fresh air. You need not smoke. But your understanding is clouded. And you give a cause which is not the real cause, is the sense mind which clouds your understanding. So first is the desire, and the second is the sense mind, or the mind which justifies your actions. Next. The third cause is improper action of will. We just don't know what we should do and what we should not do. Next. In a complete silence only is the silence heard. One is the small s and one is the capital S. Mauna Vyakhya Prakatita Parabrahma Tattvam. That is the law. You can understand the Parabrahma, the Brahma in action and Brahma as the witness, only in silence. And that silence is a dynamic silence, the silence of samadhi, not the silence of sleep. And that is the silence, and that silence gives you shanti, peace. Next. Concentration. Are all of you understanding? So this is the purity. The purity of understanding, then the three impurifications I have already given you in the previous slides. You remove them, and then what you are supposed to do, you concentrate. The mold, the akara of the Vijnanamaya Purusha. And how do you get the Vijnanamaya Purusha's mold? That will be the tomorrow's class. The yoga of perfection. The mold in which you have to put the samadhi, thoughtless state. Next. The concentration has these three steps to know, and the concentration can be utilized for the acquisition of that which is still ungrasped, and the concentration can become whatever we choose. And I am talking about this becoming factor of concentration. You understand becoming factor of, you become that. You become the mold. You become the Vijnanamaya Purusha. So above the Chaitya Purusha, who is 3 in 1, is the Vijnanamaya Purusha, of which we are not yet aware, but nature is aware. And now when you are practicing the third factor of concentration, And these three factors in Raj Yoga are known as Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. And many people tell me they can't understand what Dharana is. Let me give you an example. When you are in a movie, a very good movie, you are sitting in the chair, the movie has not started. But what happened? Pratyahara has happened. Pratyahara means your senses are drawn inwards, ready to see the movie. Right? Pratyahara has happened. Now what is dharana? You are ready to see the movie. The news reel is going on or some advertisement is going on. You are aware and you are prepared to see, but still you are not interested. You are not interested in the advertisements and this and that, but internally you are ready to see. That integral yoga of, then what happens? Slowly you start seeing the movie. In the initial stages of the movie, you know that you are seeing the movie. You are aware that you are seeing the movie and the movie is there. And almost unconsciously you are aware also of some others also sitting around me and seeing the movie. But after some time, you are involved in the movie. You forget that you are there. That is why I said if it is an interesting movie. If it is not an interesting movie, you will be only in the dharana state. But you understand all these three? Dharana, preparation. Dhyana, you are there, but your consciousness is there. But you are aware that you are there. You are acquiring it. The acquisition factor is you are there and you are acquiring the knowledge. And after some time you are not there. Only that is there. The movie is there. If you can do that to a movie, why can't you do it to the ideal of perfection? Then what does it mean? You should have a very clear-cut flow of thought about perfection. Then only you can have a dhyana on perfection. Is it not? So that is what we are going to read tomorrow. We will have a continuous flow of the mold, how your mind is to be molded to become a mold for the supramental consciousness. But now what is we are trying to do? We are molding the mind through these three states of concentration. And these three states, when you are perfect enough and do it immediately and instantaneously, is known as Sanyamana in Patanjali Yoga Sutras. Trayameka Sanyamana. These three, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi, together make Sanyamana. And for the Chaitya Purusha becoming silent for the lower three and just awaiting for the incoming Vijnanamaya Purusha is the real Sanyamana. Now you understand how yoga is to be practiced. For any yoga, for any evolution, first you have a preparation. Then you have an opening that you want to receive it. Then what should you become? You should become that. When these three happen instantaneously, it is Sanyamana. Next. The same thing. The Raj Yoga concentration, what I have explained to you. Next. Now, he is utilizing the waking soul, the dream soul and the sleep soul. And you remember the word soul is beyond psychic being. You remember that. Soul is the interlink between the Jivatma, which never manifests down, and a soul which manifests but does not take part in the activities. It is a silent watcher. And the psychic, he partakes all. So this is what he is talking about. You should be aware of that part of the unmanifested spark which is beyond the psychic being but still is in this world. Next. Now these type of concentrations where you use the logical mind to achieve, to know, to exercise and to become that is vitarka. You want to become a doctor, you hear the messages from the teachers and this, the lectures. You exercise the knowledge and then what you become? You become the doctor, but by tarka, step by step. But here in vichara, the time gap is very much limited. This is savitarka and this is savichara. This is the lower mind and this is the higher mind. These planes you should understand. Where logic is involved, it is lower. Where understanding is involved, it is vichara. Next. Next. Renunciation. Now, next. Wait. I told you about purification and concentration. All of you understood? What is purification? Where the unwanted things are removed in your thoughts, because we are talking about Jnana Yoga. And then you concentrate, you are forming a mold. When the mold is there and the mold has crystallized, what will you do? You remove, you renounce the unwanted things. The same thing you have to do here also. After purity and concentration, you have to renounce the unwanted parts of the mold. What we can say when a building is being built, the scaffoldings. You need them. Instead of that, you can't build it. But once you have built, you have to renounce it. If not, you are coming in and out, becomes a problem. And this is where many of the sadhakas fail, because they can't renounce. What they were practicing all these days as a mold becomes their inhibition. You are supposed to be at ease with renouncing also, as you are at ease with concentration. And this is the 5th chapter of Gita, Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Next. Wait. Purification and concentration is the right arm, and renunciation is the left arm. What do you mean by left? Even in the use of the words, the genius of truth consciousness. He says renunciation is the left arm, what you have to leave. Next. You understand, renunciation is not a discipline. It is a definite and final end of a sadhana. Previously, next chapter. Next you go. For this sadhaka of an integral yoga, none of these reasons are valid. What does Sri Aurobindo mean by this is, to reach the Vijnanamaya Purusha building, am I able to understand you? The molding of the Vijnanamaya Purusha, just as the molding of the psychic being and the Pranamaya and Manomaya, Annamaya Purushas. You are molding, and what you are supposed to do? You have to renounce. But here in sadhaka of integral yoga, you don't renounce. You come back again. When you go to the Vijnanamaya Purusha, when that is molded, you don't reject and say and go into the samadhi forever or get liberation from Jivan Mukti or whatever it is called. You don't renounce completely. You still keep your hold on the lower four, the psychic being and the 3-in-1, and they become the tools of further evolution. Next. That is why ours is an inward renunciation which cannot be seen outward. So don't judge any man by his physical actions, he has renounced or not. And the greatest sannyasi is Lord Sri Krishna, and nobody says he is a sannyasi. So that's that. Next. It will be seen that the scope we give to the idea of renunciation is different from the meaning currently attached to it. Self-evident. Next. The synthesis of the disciplines of the knowledge. The disciplines of the knowledge are all these 5 I have talked about: the Hatha Yoga, the Raja Yoga, the Karma Yoga, the Bhakti Yoga, and the Jnana Yoga. And you have understood also how you have to synthesize it. You have to purify all these bodies by all these yogas, you have to concentrate, and then you have to renounce. Next. Just go on. Path of devotion, path of works. Now, this is where you have the change of consciousness. The soul identifies itself with this mental dynamo of station and says, I am this mind. And since the mind is absorbed in the bodily life, it thinks I am a mind in a living body, or still more commonly, I am a body which lives and thinks, but it never understands that a power utilizes it which is higher than its ego. So you have to renounce the ego. That is the inward renunciation. Next. 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 The title itself is self-evident. Go to the next chapter. Wait. The stigma. The stigma of death is animalistic in nature. If you are dying, it means that there is an animal nature in you. If you can renounce the animal nature, your physical body becomes immortal. That is the clue given by Sri Aurobindo. See what he clearly shows? Thrown away it must be, and entirely. The fear of death and the aversion to bodily cessation or the stigma left by his animal origin on the human being. It is a negative mark on the human consciousness that you are going to die. In one of the books, The Greatest Adventure, Death the Greatest Adventure, written by Maharshi Jwalakul, he says we die because we are habituated to die. It has become a habit. And just as even though you don't want to smoke, you smoke, even though you don't want to die, you die. Garuda Purana is the authority. Next. Very clear. We have talked about it. The desires must go. The kama manas must go. And the thoughts must go. Where you will go to samadhi. I have come from the back side, from the back door. I told you first about samadhi. And the samadhi happens when you leave these things. Next chapter. Release from ego. Since 3 days I am talking about ego, probably with more egoism. So that you understand, the ego must be only a tool, but not a peg to hang your desires and dislikes. If you can understand that, that becomes easy. The ego must become a tool, but what is happening? It becomes a peg on which we hang our desires, thoughts, likes and dislikes. So you should be, that peg, if you can remove it from you can't hang it. No more you can hang your desires and thoughts and that, because there is no peg there. That is samadhi. Next. No, wait. Important. The formation of a mental and vital ego tied the body. Understand this. The stigma of death is related to this slide. You can later study it in detail. This is page 346 of Synthesis of Yoga. And the stigma of death, page number? No, you crossed it. 349. You correlate these 2 pages, 349 and 356. You can understand it. What I am talking about, the peg to be unreleased or taken out from the wall. The formation of a mental and vital ego tied to the body sense was the first great labor of the cosmic life in its progressive evolution. The development of this body consciousness was a must a few millennia years ago, so the body has evolved. It is not now necessary as a peg. For this was the means it found for creating out of matter a conscious individual. The dissolution of this limiting ego is the one condition, the necessary means for this very cosmic life to arrive at its divine fruition. Just as I was told about the removing of the scaffoldings. The ego was necessary to build the Annamaya Purusha, the Pranamaya Purusha and the Manomaya Purusha. But now the ego is not required. You remove the ego and then the psychic being can come forward from the house it is thrown inwards and dominate the external life. Next. The realization of the cosmic self. Next slide. Next. This is the important point of understanding the cosmic consciousness. Spirit and material existence are highest and the lowest rung of an ordinary and progressive series. This is what you have to be continuously aware of. You should be aware that the highest point is the spirit, the lowest point is the matter, but matter and spirit are a continuity of consciousness. Here, we don't have a continuity of consciousness. We have a break in consciousness. The waking state broken by a dream state, the dream state broken by a sleep state, or the Annamaya Pranamaya consciousness broken by mind, Manomaya state, or the Manomaya state broken by the Vijnanamaya and Anandamaya states. And once you can make a continuity of this consciousness, you will have the cosmic consciousness. You understand what I mean? Next. The image of ether. This is a wonderful sadhana if you can understand it. And for your understanding, you should be free from the three hindrances I have told you. The three faults of understanding in the previous slides. So the image of ether, and when Sri Aurobindo talks about ether, he means the space, not physical but an encompassing akasha of vast being, consciousness and bliss. He may seek to see with the mind and to feel in his mental being this supreme existence and to identify it in oneness with the self within him. So you have to feel the expansion of the akasha. Got the point? That is the meditation. And the next meditation is much more wonderful. Next. No. Back. What happens when you are seeing the akasha? What you are seeing? What is akasha? That which is between you and me. This is the akasha. And if you can just imagine the akasha of the entire cosmos, can you do it? Is it difficult? The akasha is in this room, what is known as the Ghat Akasha in our technical Vedantic language. And now you just go a bit ahead, close your eyes and see the Antariksha. You are alone in the planet Earth and the Akasha is there. You can do it. You understood the point of it? If you can do it, what happens? Upon that change of seeing, as it becomes more and more potent and insistent and occupies all our consciousness, there will supervene eventually a change of becoming so that what we see, we become. This is simply a trick of change in consciousness. We are seeing the Akasha alone on the planet Earth. We are seeing the Akasha. Suddenly what happens? Your consciousness jumps into it. Just as your consciousness jumps into the flow of the cinema. You are not aware of your body. your consciousness when you are seeing the cinema, is it not? Similarly, when you go on practicing this, you become the Akasha. And what is Akasha? It is the bliss sheath, the Anandamaya Kosha, Chidakasha. Mathakasha and Chidakasha. But you have to practice it. It is not the name that is important, the experience which is important. Next. Self-knowledge and world knowledge. What I am telling, you are in the planet Earth, I am on the planet Earth, the self-knowledge, and then the world knowledge. Next. The modes of the self, I have told you, the mutable, the immutable, and the Purushottama. The mutable is the psychic being, the soul is the immutable being, and the Jivatma is the Purushottama. The realization of Satchidananda. The realization of Satchidananda is nothing but the realization and synthesis of the yoga of works, the yoga of devotion, and the yoga of knowledge. The yoga of knowledge leads you to Chit. The yoga of Bhakti leads you to Ananda. And what remains? Karma. That is existence proper. So the yoga of karma is Sat, leads you to the Sat. That is where the asana and hatha yoga are also important. You will read it in that chapter. Sri Aurobindo has written it. Even through body also you can go to the existence, Sat. And then Chit, mind consciousness. And Ananda, bliss consciousness. But not your personal Satchitananda. Not your personal. The capital S, the capital C, and the capital A. Because what we are now understanding is a egoic understanding, your understanding. And that differs from man to man. But this cannot differ. This realization comes when you practice the action which we will do tomorrow. Next. The difficulties of the mental being. Nishkama karma is the first difficulty. To say it is very easy. Then equality is much more difficult. And having known karma and being equal, to work as if you are an expert in that is much more difficult. And the greatest difficulty is the ego of the mind. The passive Brahman is the soul, and the active Brahman is the egoless existence of the psychic being. You understand the difference? You are only a witness conscious, you are only a watcher. That is a static Brahman, a passive Brahman. But when the Brahman works through the psychic, Manomaya, Pranamaya, and Annamaya Purusha, without the ego, it becomes an active Brahman. Next. No waiting. Cosmic consciousness, just I gave you the exercise where from Ghatakasha to Chidakasha you take the jump and you see this self from that side. That becomes the cosmic consciousness. Next. Oneness. The next step, the link between the self-consciousness and the cosmic consciousness and you. When these three fuse, you become one. I am not really talking about it because even however much we talk about it, it will always be the egoic aspect of it. You cannot understand what actually the cosmic consciousness is. That is why I am not jumping. I am not jumping because those words can convey a meaning only when you have an experience of the supramental descent, at least partially. not continuously. And that we will get in Bhakti Yoga. The partial descent will come in Bhakti Yoga. Let us see how it comes. Go to Bhakti Yoga. It's over. Be slow. Let them see the slides at least. Understanding? Psychic being is the Kshara Purusha liberation. You have to go to the Akshara Purusha liberation also. So that Jivatma, which is beyond manifestation, comes into manifestation but does not take part, is the soul. But you have to be liberated from that soul also. Next. And it is very interesting. Plane of existence. Just one slide we will show. Plane of existence.
It's not participating.
No, it doesn't. It helps in the evolution. It helps. No, because of your psychic being and other three beings are molded because of the soul, not because of the Jivatma. The soul molds them and renounces it to the lower levels, and happens a silent watcher there.
Psychic being is not being.
Psychic being is involved now as a inner being, in integral yoga as the outer being again when he comes forward, but later the soul must control the psychic being.
So liberation from that is also necessary.
Very necessary. Liberation for Purushottama is also necessary, but that is a later evolution. Probably again Sri Aurobindo will come after a few millennium of years, and he will decide the yoga for being liberated from Purushottama. You have to. If you have to go beyond mind to supermind, naturally after supermind you have to go beyond. And naturally you already know it. It is eternal, but the evolution is continuous.
Because there is a peak always beyond infinity.
Always.
That is the concept.
If it is not there, it is not an infinity, however great it is. And we remember that is the ego mind which is thinking all these things. You be careful about this. What we are talking about is nothing psychic in it and nothing soul or Jivatma there. It is the ego trying to understand it. And this is where the Upanishads, you have the answer here. The Upanishads, just put the various planes, next slide. This is mind, life and matter on one side, the Satchidananda on the other side, and the link principle, the Vijnana, in between. These are the 7 planes of matter. We are now in the mind trying to link the supermind, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and naturally after the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the Satchidananda is there. Next. Though he has written about it, I am not talking about it because they are simple words. Whatever it is, we put a capital S there. But we don't know the difference between a self with small s and a self with a capital S. Except we know that it is a big S. Next. Now go to the Bhakti Yoga. Next slide. This is what Mother says about devotion. You have but to become. It is the laziness to become that makes one worship. What do you mean by worshipping? You become it. You know, the words of Mother are so dangerous. You say I am worshipping, you are lazy. It is the tamasic being in you which is worshipping. I do not want a religion and end it to religions. And we are going to read Bhakti Yoga. Anyway, we will go it fast. Because it is a necessary part of the yoga. We need it also, even though there is a duality there. Next. The love and the triple path. Just as there are the 3 paths of will, knowledge and love, there are also 3 modes of worshipping. You have the ritual part of the worship, the kriya, what we know as the panchopacharas, shodashopacharas. And then you have the becoming part of the devotion, where you merge with the consciousness which you love. That is heart, bhakti yoga. And then you know the logic of upasana, the rationale of upasana, that is the knowledge. So even in the bhakti yoga, you have the three: the karma kanda without understanding the rationale, karma kanda with understanding the rationale, means jnana yoga of worship with karma yoga of worship. And now when you unite, the union gives the love, the ananda, that is bhakti yoga of works. Bhakti yoga of devotion. So again in devotion you have these three: the karma kanda, the jnana kanda, and the unification of these two, bhakti kanda. Next. just back. Sarvam karmakhilam jnane parisamapyate. So this yoga of devotion is a merger of works and knowledge. Am I clear about it? In devotion, you are offering a puja, that is karma kanda. You have a rationale for doing the puja, that is jnana kanda. And through this karma kanda and the jnana kanda, you merge into the God, that is bhakti, devotion. But Sri Aurobindo wants that in the end, it is the knowledge which is important. So the devotion is a temporary scaffolding so that you can grow, your consciousness can grow into the various consciousness of the devatas. A Kali, you grow into the level of Kali. And remember that to whomsoever divinity you pray, you reach overmind. The gods are all in the overmind. So in that way, the yoga of devotion, bhakti yoga, becomes very important tool to reach overmind. But again, if you want to reach the supermind, it will not help. Sarvam karmam karmakhilam jnane parisamapyate. In the knowledge, in the integral knowledge, everything is merged. But do you understand the importance of devotion? Because if you can catch one level of overmind, that is exactly what Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's life gives you a proof. If once you reach the overmind, after years of sadhana, he reached the overmind of Kali, then what could he do? All other gods in 3 days. You understand the point? So that is the importance of bhakti yoga. Next.
The world mind can be reached by following the traditional discipline also.
Right.
Without resorting to Sri Aurobindo's intuitive yoga, up to world mind one can go.
But if you have so many tools to grow, let us use them. That is integration. Next. Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. So it is the knowledge in the end which is important, because it is the mind which is supposed to grow till overmind, and after that the mind goes. What comes? Understanding comes, vijnana comes. You should know the difference between vijnana and mind. The mind is stilled completely. Next. Integral yoga may commence with the way of love, that is bhakti yoga, as with way of knowledge or works. This is jnana yoga and this is karma yoga. But where they meet is the beginning of its joy of fulfillment. Love it cannot miss, even if it does not start from it. For love is the crown of works at the flowering of knowledge. As I have told you, the karma kanda and jnana kanda must unite to become a bhakti. That is love. And love is ananda. And actually, let us see, the motives of devotion may be many. Next. When I say the motives of devotion, your Ishtadeva. The motive is your Ishtadeva. Next. The Godward emotions, the Bhagavata says there are 9 levels. You go to the Bhagavata, you have the Shravana, which makes you turn towards him. Then Kirtana, singing his glories, you are attracted towards him. Then Smarana, you go on remembering his glories. Then Padasevana, remember, this Padasevana is a state of consciousness in higher mind. There are 7 states of consciousness in higher mind. In one slide I have given that. That is your homework. In the yoga of knowledge, these levels are not physical. They are states of higher mind. Like Sadas, he says, it is a part of higher mind. Gruha, he says, it is a part of higher mind. But Gruha and Sadas for us, Pada, all these are states of higher mind that you remember. You don't try to say the egoistic aspects of surrendering and worshipping the feet of a guru. You may do it as a part of karma yoga, but you should have the knowledge of the reality. And the last, of course, is complete surrender. And this complete surrender is with which we start our first step of integral yoga. Next. Next. Then the tantric sadhana. And you remember, the entire integral yoga is a tantric sadhana. You always remember it. Even though our present egoic connotations, tantra has a negative meaning because of the panchamakaras. But you have to renounce it. You have to renounce that concept, that is the egoic concept, which puts a hurdle in understanding the tantric concept. And in tantric concept, the marriages, especially how Meera married Krishna, if you can understand, you can understand the real spirit of tantra. Next, the Shakti. In Shaktism also, that is in the tantra practice, you go to the next, where is that Pashu and Veera and Daiva Bhava? This one. So this is where the integral yoga takes only the divine tantric way of growing evolution. It does not take the Pashu Vritti or the Veera Vritti. Veera Vritti is fighting. In surrendering, there is no fighting. But you are surrendering to what? To something divine. So, the 3 planes of tantric sadhanas, which are linked with Pashu, you don't touch it. They are very dangerous also. Don't go to that. You will sink into the Pashu Vritti, you will become Asuric. Don't go to that. And we don't go to also because we are not at all interested in Panchamakaras. But don't practice it as a Veera sadhana also. Practice it as a Divya sadhana where you surrender to the Lord with annihilation of ego, psychic being, and the 3 lower Purushas. And with all devotion, we come to the conclusion of divine yoga. Jai Gurudev. Divine personality. Light of divine is the personal sadhaka. Having the knowledge of the personality of the God merges in him. But still it is a personality, but he has a delight in it. Then comes the Anandamaya Kosha. It has to mold itself also after the Vijnanamaya Kosha, Purusha. You should have the Anandamaya Purusha, but they go hand in hand. Just as the Annamaya Purusha and Pranamaya Kosha go hand in hand, latter, the Vijnanamaya Purusha and the Anandamaya Purusha in the end of integral yoga go hand in hand, and how to achieve perfection is our subject for tomorrow. Jai Gurudev. I had to go a bit.